Hi! In today's video I'm going to present you with some insight into Amazon's culture and how it helped them to become the company that we all know today. This video is structured in 5 parts. The first part will be dedicated to Jeff Bezos' first job ad, while the second I'm going to present you with some insight into Amazon's famous shareholder letters. Then the third section will be with Amazon's famous 14 leadership principles and how they are used to pretty much any new hire into their company. And next, the fourth section will be about Amazon's rather innovative way of hiring new delivery service partners by funding them as small businesses. And finally, I'm going to give you some insight into Amazon.jobs and basically explain you why this is simply the best career website around. So also maybe one note here is that if you are currently looking for a job with Amazon, I'm also going to present you with some hopefully interesting insight into their hiring process. Amazon's first job ad is dating all the way back from 1994. Back then, Jeff Bezos was a little-known investor who just quit his well-paid Wall Street job to start an e-commerce business described in the ad as a well-capitalized Seattle company. Back then, it was exceptional to have a computer, never mind the internet. Well-capitalized startup seeks extremely talented C++ Unix developers to help pioneer commerce on the internet. You must have experience designing and building large and complex yet maintainable systems, and you should be able to do so in about 1/3 of the time that most competent people think possible. You should have a BS, MS or PhD in computer science or the equivalent. Top-notch communication skills are essential. Familiarity with web servers and HTML would be helpful but is not necessary. Expect talented, motivated, intense and interesting coworkers. Must be willing to relocate to the Seattle area. We will help cover moving costs. Your compensation will include meaningful equity ownership. Send resume and cover letter to Jeff Bezos. We are an equal opportunity employer. Quote, it's easier to invent the future than to predict it, end quote, Alan Kay. Less than a year after this job ad was posted, Amazon started selling books online into the first steps to become the company that we know today that employs well over 500,000 people. And I believe this job ad is the golden mine to gain some insight into Jeff Bezos' way of thinking, because you see, he knew from the beginning that he was looking for people to pioneer a new type of industry, that was of online commerce. And he also knew the type of people that would be able to deliver on such a promise. And when he actually said that he was looking for developers to build complex systems 3 times faster than competent people would consider normal. And this approach is rather unusual for most job ads nowadays and PR communications. Because you see, most businesses nowadays, especially the small businesses, assume that you have no chance of attracting super talented people unless you are a large business or you have the financial means, which is basically nonsense. Let me give you an example here. About 1 week ago, following the departure of Tesla's head of engineering, Doug Fields, it was reported that more and more of Tesla's employees had begun fleeing to Apple. Then, when requested for a comment, Tesla's PR department essentially replied that Apple is a large business with 100 times the budget of Tesla. Now, as a side note here, Elon Musk is an extraordinary recruiter, and it's just been announced that Tesla is reshuffling their PR department. So the moral of this story is that great entrepreneurs understand the need of attracting top-end talent and are willing to go to great extents to achieve their goals, and this is despite their rather limited resources as compared to larger businesses. So, for instance, if you are ever considering to apply for a job at Amazon, you should at first know that you know your thing, you're an expert in what you do, and also then, as I'm going to present later on in this video, to see if you're a great fit into Amazon's culture. So, as Jeff Bezos once said, he'd rather interview 50 people and hire none of them than to making a bad hire. The most important of all is also the first one that he wrote back in 1997 when he set the direction of Amazon. In his shareholder letter, Jeff Bezos issued a manifesto called "It's All About the Long Term," where he laid out his approach to business and running Amazon. Quote, "We will continue to make investment decisions in light of long-term market leadership rather than short-term Wall Street reactions." In the second shareholder letter, he shares some insight into how the company managed to hire some of the brightest minds of the late 1990s. And by the way, this method is still used nowadays for hiring at Amazon. During our hiring meetings, we ask people to consider 3 questions before making a decision. Will you admire this person? Will this person raise the average level of effectiveness of the group they're entering? Along what dimensions might this person be a superstar? There are many ways to structure a business. It can be product focused, technology focused, business model focused, and customer centric focused. From the beginning, Amazon was clear into what they wanted to achieve here. They wanted to build world's most customer centric company. Bezos would constantly remind employees to wake up every morning terrified. Not of the competition, but of Amazon's own customers. Customers are fickle. They are loyal to a company until a competitor offers a better service. Amazon designed its core value proposition around keeping customers happy by constantly offering more selection, better convenience, and lower prices. Bezos comes back to long-term thinking a lot, and in this shareholder letter he explains the difference between tenants of Amazon stock and owners. Owners are different from tenants. I know of a couple who rented out their house, and the family who moved in nailed their Christmas tree to the hardwood floors instead of using a tree stand. No owner would be so short-sighted. Similarly, many investors are effectively short-term tenants, turning their portfolios so quickly that they are really just renting the stocks that they temporarily own. Amazon worries more about fulfilling its mission than what their competitors are up to. One advantage, perhaps a somewhat subtle one, of a customer-driven focus is that it aids a certain type of productivity. When we are at our best, we don't wait for external pressures. We are internally driven to improve our services, adding benefits and features before we have to. We lower prices and increase value for customers before we have to. We invent before we have to. Jeff Bezos realizes that most decisions are reversible, and you can use this next advice in pretty much any facet of your life. Some decisions are consequential and irreversible or nearly irreversible, one-way doors, and these decisions must be made methodically, carefully, slowly. If you walk through and don't like what you see on the other side, you can't get back to where you were before. We call these type 1 decisions. But most decisions aren't like that. They are changeable, reversible, they're two-way doors. If you've made a suboptimal type 2 decision, you don't have to live with the consequences for that long. You can reopen the door and go back through. Type 2 decisions can and should be made quickly by high judgment individuals or small groups. And finally, a reflection on high standards. Because while most people realize what high standards look like, there is a missing piece to this puzzle. To achieve high standards, you need to form and proactively communicate realistic beliefs about how hard something is going to be. And another thing that often gets referenced in these shareholder letters is something very important to Amazon, that is their 14 leadership principles. And in fact, they're not directly referenced, but rather to keywords that reflect the type of culture and behaviors that Amazon encourages. What are these principles? They are a framework that Amazon uses to both recruit and develop their people. The first group, and by far the most important, relates to Amazon's mission to become Earth's most customer-centric company. They promote a culture of ownership, inventors, and long-term focus. All the remaining principles will further emphasize on these three. Leaders are right a lot. Sounds a bit counterintuitive, but this refers to the ability of a leader to listen, practice, and work hard consistently. It basically means that Amazon looks at great leadership as a journey instead of a destination. Frugality refers to the ability to accomplish more with less. And an interesting anecdote is Amazon's 2-pizza teams, which basically means a team should be no larger than the number of people that can be fed with 2 pizzas. Hire and develop the best goes hand in hand with earning trust, and it refers to the ability to hire and retain smart people as the golden standard for a successful business. It is not by accident that Amazon's interviewing process is one of the most rigorous around. Insisting on the highest standards refer to the unique culture at Amazon where rapid change and unexpected challenges are said to be the normal. Bias for action and learning to be curious. There is a famous concept at Amazon that it is always day one, by which they mean that day 2 is often too late for something to become successful. In a decision-making process, when data tells you a different story than your instincts, you should challenge the data and the KPIs, have backbone to disagree, and dive deeper into details. Thinking big essentially refers to the ability to make bold bets. That is to predict a successful outcome long before everyone else, which is of course a much sought-after quality of a leader. Each of these set of principles are specific to job roles, and Amazon goes as far as to dedicating special people to ensure that these are followed, and these people are actually called bar raisers, and they're actually so powerful that I have veto power over anyone looking for a job at Amazon. Is this a unique concept? Definitely not. In fact, I have more than 100 examples of core values and principles on my series. What's interesting here is Amazon is now well over 500,000 people, and it's often said that the questions about these leadership principles and cultural fit in general make for 50% of the interviewing process. And one last note here. Even after almost 2 decades after Amazon went public, pretty much all of Jeff Bezos' public talks are still around these 14 leadership principles. So I've been hearing a lot of reactions since Amazon originally announced this program from people basically saying that this is just another attempt to pay as little as possible for this type of no skills required jobs. And but first let me explain what this whole delivery service partner business is all about in just one sentence. So what Amazon is trying to do is to incentivize people working for its delivery service business by offering them financial and logistic support to fund their small businesses. And this is instead of having them work on part-time opportunities or even for third parties. So the idea would be for these people to start their own small businesses, which, if successful, they would have the option to further develop on their own or just basically sell it to Amazon. A few notes here. First, not all that feedback is bad, and if more than 25,000 people already watch my video with some advice on what to expect by working with Amazon, then it certainly means that there's at least some momentum going on. And my second observation here is that one of Amazon's major competitors, Walmart, also experienced with such a program by essentially paying their own employees more money to do these deliveries. And this program failed so bad that I believe that they completely discontinued since. And another example here. FedEx, which itself is a delivery business, has also been mentioned in the comment section of my other video as being weak or not particularly interested in this type of business. And the simple reason for this is something called route density. Route density basically means that there are not enough transactions, there's not enough demand for that region to hire people full-time, and this is actually the business opportunity that Amazon spotted here. Now let's go back to the original delivery service partners program. You see, Amazon knows all too well how hard it is to hire this type of people, because after all they already have many of them. So what they're trying to do is to make a bold bet, to incentivize people that are willing to take a bit of risk on a possibly viable business model. Because just imagine here, you're local, you want to be your own boss, and you are willing to work hard for that. It could be just a matter of time until your region will begin having a steady amount of orders, and if that's the case, then bingo, you've got yourself into a profitable business model that, by the way, you can choose to sell back to Amazon or further develop on your own. If, like most businesses, it will fail, then at least you've got yourself with some great connections at a highly successful business, which is far more important than most people realize. So, have you heard of any other businesses hiring other businesses instead of volume hiring and on such a scale? I think it's the first for me. So as a conclusion here, I believe that Amazon deserves a lot more credit for taking some pretty significant financial risks here to basically create opportunity. If all my previous sections have been about various innovations and initiatives at Amazon, this one will be about their front shop when it comes to hiring. Amazon is hiring through Amazon.jobs, and that's a website that I believe most companies have a lot to learn from. And let's start with the basic stuff. When you're hiring on all cylinders, you should make sure that your website works as expected. For example, candidates should be able to apply from a mobile device in 2018. Why am I mentioning this? Let's take a look at Tesla's website, and this is how it looks when you want to apply for a job using your iPhone, or pretty much using any mobile device. You see, these things are not rocket science, and in fact I also provide some career website templates myself for free, but the reality is that not many companies seem to care about these things, and I'll let you guess which ones are more profitable. Amazon understands the need for a well-structured and centralized hiring process, and that's why they basically use Amazon.jobs for all candidates, and from then on they route those applicants by their job type. For example, white-collar jobs are routed through a website managed by a company named iSeams that will provide a custom application process dedicated for that role. And unlike many others, they always tell you a decision of your application process, which is a feature still not present for many top employers. Then, the blue-collar jobs are handled through the large volume hiring website at amazon.force.com, and everyone must pass through this website, and that is even if you're attending a job fair where they offer on-the-spot jobs. And Amazon even has a jobs day on August 2nd in which they encourage people to visit one of their fulfillment centers. So to me, there's no surprise that Amazon.jobs is a state-of-the-art website, because As you've seen throughout this video, Amazon pioneered many super interesting and profitable concepts, and they are between the very few that actually deliver on what they preach they would. Thank you for watching.